All right, we are live. Hello, welcome back to another Capture and Create live stream. My name is Kwame. I'm your host. I like to take pictures. Today, this space really is a place where we can just talk photography. I have some things I want to talk about, but as always, if you have any questions or comments or anything else you want to talk about, please let me know. Uh, just leave a comment in the comment box and I can reply back to you. But today I want to talk. First, I want to start talking about, well, kind of give you an overview. We're going to talk about sensor sizes and your next camera and which sensor should you look for. Uh, we're going to talk about my potential new travel slash getting out of the house computer. Apple has an event coming up in a couple days. Excuse me. Apple has an event coming up in a couple days. So we're going to be talking about what does that look like for photographers like us, and do you even need to upgrade to the newest Apple computer? Then also, Tamron has a couple new firmware updates for our lenses. There's a picture that won the world's largest online photography contest, or the world's largest photography contest. However, it wasn't what it seemed. So we're going to talk about that. And then, yeah, again, if you have any questions, we'll put them in there. So let's dive in and let's talk about sensor sizes. I love this because I have used almost every sensor size you can think of, like full frame, APS-C, smartphone, 1-inch sensors. The only thing I haven't used are like medium format cameras, but all the other ones I've used even the like a little larger than 1-inch sensors. I've used the Canons. Oh, Nikon. I've used a Nikon, like the super zoom Nikon, but not a like traditional interchangeable lens Nikon. Ricoh's, Sony's. So I've used a lot of cameras, Panasonic's, Olympus, and I see a lot of people. I'm like, I'll look on Reddit, I'll look on other forums where people talking about like their cameras and what they're looking for and why they need this camera versus that camera. And for myself included, there's a lot of people who think the the full frame cameras like this A7 II, right, is the end all be all type of sensor that they need. I remember a guy was talking to me. I was out for a walk photographing some pictures, and he saw I had the A6100 and he had the A6000. He's like, "Oh man, I can't wait till I can get a full frame camera. Pictures are gonna be so much better." And we chatted, and he didn't know who I was. I just happened to have the same type of camera as him, and I wish I asked him why. Like, what are you gonna use this camera for? And so when you're looking at buying your next camera, whatever camera you are, think of the first question you should be asking is, what am I going to be using this camera for? So if it's like capturing your kids, capturing vacation, just capturing fun moments in our lives, well, our smartphone works perfectly fine. Here it is. So what is this one? The Samsung S22 Ultra will work perfectly fine for that. In fact, I took this and the iPhone to Europe for 2 weeks, and those were my two main cameras, and it was fine. Like, the pictures I got were amazing. The low light pictures looked really good. They shoot video. You have the computational photography, so it was awesome. And it was like I it was perfect. Like, it was, well, it wasn't perfect. There was areas where it struggled, but like all cameras, well, even like a medium format camera, they're not fast. So you're not going to use them for sports photography. They're big, they're heavy. You got to lug them around, and they cost a lot. So if something happens to them, you'll feel it more. So when you're looking at buying your first camera, think about what you're going to use it for. Because if it's social media and things like that, any camera, including a smartphone, will do just fine. My little Ricoh GR3X here has an APS-C size sensor in it. To me, the APS-C size sensor is probably the best sensor size for 99% of the hobbyist photographers, like the people like us who are just taking casual pictures of our lives, like documenting our lives. That sensor size is perfect. Like, it's not too big, meaning the image sizes aren't gigantic. You get an amazing amount of detail from those pictures. I was just out yesterday at the botanical gardens and taking pictures with the Ricoh GR3X. They have like the close-up mode, so doing close-up pictures, regular pictures. The detail, the subtlety of those images look unbelievable, and those are just JPEGs straight out of the camera. The other thing, just checking out so if you see me looking on the side, I have a live feed on my iPad, and then I have my actual computer set up over here, so I'm checking that also. So that's what I'm looking at. But also, I was taking pictures with my iPhone and my Samsung phone, and they look really good. And in some cases, they look even better because the dynamic range straight out of camera is unbelievable on a smartphone. Whereas you can get really good dynamic range on a traditional camera, but you have to work for it. Like, it's not as easy as a point and shoot. Sometimes you gotta take multiple pictures, other times you gotta shoot raw. So that's something you gotta think about. Like, what are you gonna be using these pictures for? Now, let's say you're like, come on, I want to make a photo book out of these. I want to print large pictures. Well, then, yeah, a full frame camera can do that. An APS-C camera can do that. iPhone pictures can do that. Like, so there's the sensor size when it comes to like printing and photo books. For printing, if you're going to print a really large picture and you want detail, and I mean large, like 24 by 36, something like that. And I'm not talking about billboard, but I'm talking about like large pictures. Like, one thing I want to do is, in the near future, I'm going to put 2 pictures up here behind me, and I want them backlit with like some lighting, so it kind of stands out from the wall. And so those will probably be, I believe they're going to be 24 by 36. Yeah, they're actually going to be 24 by 36. They're going to be pretty large pictures. And the pictures I've selected for those, I'm not going to show you yet, but the pictures I've selected for those were taken with micro four thirds cameras. Right? So sensor size nowadays, for like the way that, at least for me, the way that I use my pictures, it's nice to have a larger sensor, like larger than a phone camera, right? So you can get detail, you can really get some really nice separation between your subject and background if you're doing like a portrait or even like an isolation picture of a leaf or something. But the sensor sizes these days are so good, even on an old camera like this A7 II, right? Is it still worth it in 2023, 2024? Absolutely. The sensors are so good these days that, even an old camera can produce amazing results. But also, when you look at sensor sizes, you gotta look at lens sizes and camera body sizes. Whereas, well, the camera body sizes used to be, I would say the camera body sizes were something that we used to look at with larger sensors. Now, larger sensors are going into smaller bodies, like the A7C. Right now, that one is, let me see, I'm just going to pull it up here real quick. So that is $2,400 with the kit lens, $2,500, $2,500 with the kit lens. So it's not cheap by any means, but the size of the camera is like the size of the A6100 I have, with a full frame sensor in it. But I'm even amazed by like this here, the Ricoh GR3X and even the Fuji XF10. This is like a point and shoot camera. Now, granted, it doesn't have a zoom or anything like that, fixed focus lens, but I have an APS-C sensor in this tiny little thing. So I'm getting a ton of amazing image quality out of within a small camera body. And so the camera bodies are getting smaller. Now, the biggest difference really between like full frame, micro four thirds, APS-C are the lenses, right? The larger the sensor, the larger the lenses are going to be, because it has to cover that entire sensor. So if you have like a 28 to 200 or 24 to 200 f2.8 full frame lens, that's going to be a gigantic lens versus the a equivalent type lens on a APS-C camera, or even a micro four thirds camera, or even like a smaller 1-inch sensor. I don't think they have a 1-inch sensor interchangeable lens, but you get my drift, right? Like those, that's where you're gonna see the biggest difference. Like, if I want the camera, if I still lived in Colorado, the lens I would get would be the Tamron. I believe it's like the 150 to 500, because out there I was doing a lot of wildlife photography, and a full frame camera was perfect because the bison would be way out sometimes. They'd also be fairly close, but if they're way out and I want to get a really nice portrait of them, or even a environmental picture of them, having that larger sensor was nice, because then I could crop in and really make the image, get the image I want. I would always shoot a little bit wider and then crop in. You can do that with APS-C also. And with APS-C, you actually get like the crop factors. APS-C or micro four thirds, or even 1-inch lenses, like there's a crop factor, meaning if you're comparing it to full frame, like the APS-C sensor has like a 1.5 inch or 1.5 times crop factor. Oops, sorry. Micro four thirds is a 2-time crop factor, meaning the equivalent of 25 millimeter lens on a full frame camera would be a 50 millimeter lens on field of view on a micro four thirds, and like 35-ish for the APS-C. I don't really put too much stock into the crop factor, because it's more for the camera nerds than actual photographers. Like if you are out taking pictures, you don't care about the crop factor, right? You're just trying to find the best system that works for you. And that's what I always tell people when it comes really down to it, is find what works best for you. Don't worry about what I use. Don't worry about what other photographers or Instagrammers or TikTokers, wherever you're like getting your entertainment from, don't worry about what they use, right? They could use Hasselblad to take amazing pictures. You and I are not going to be buying a Hasselblad camera to go out and take pictures of our kids running around or at their basketball games or things like that, right? So those are like the practical side. That's the practical side of photography. Like I always tell people, just stay within have a budget, know what you're going to use your camera for, and try many different things. Like you could use a service like Lens Rental. Rent a camera. I rented many cameras before I purchased the A7 II. But for me, that was the one camera that I knew I always wanted. Now there's other cameras on that list of like, these are just cameras I've always wanted, and they're just, I'm always going to keep them. As long as they work, I'm going to keep them around. The A7 II is like that. The A6100 has kind of turned into that for video, at least for me. The Sony A6600, that's one camera that I really want to get. I love the ergonomics of it. I love the sensor. It's a bigger body. It's actually bigger. It's about as big as the the A7 II. So it's almost as big as a full frame camera body, but it has an APS-C sensor in there. But it has 5-way image stabilization, I believe. And then you pair that with the, let's say the Sony 90mm lens that has image stabilization. You're getting like rock solid image stabilization when I'm out doing macro pictures, things like that. So for me, I love taking macro shots. I love that Sony 90mm lens. Like that's one of the best lenses I've ever used, period. And so that's why I'm still using a full frame, because I think it just looks best on that lens. I can use it on the A6100 or the A6600 if I ever get that, and it will still look phenomenal. But for me, I like the look of full frame, even though I'm not blowing these up to like big billboard size. I'm not doing a ton of retouching to them or anything like that. I just like that shallowed up the field. I like the way it looks. And again, the A7 II was like the holy grail camera for me. So at the end of the day, when you're looking at all this and you're trying to figure out, do I just stick with my phone, or do I upgrade to a point and shoot camera, to a mirrorless camera, interchangeable lens camera? Really, it just comes down to like, how are you actually going to use these pictures? Are they going to be posted online mainly for like majority of us? Again, older full frame camera, older APS-C camera will work just fine. If you are into more video, if you're like more video centric, then obviously there are cameras for the, going that route. If you're just, hey, I just want to take pictures of my kids, take a few pictures when we're traveling, things like that, your phone is just as good. Like, your phone is amazing, and it's scary how well these phones have turned into. Like I said, when we went to Europe this summer, the A7 II, A6100, my traditional cameras stayed at home. And at first I was bummed out I didn't bring them. But by the end of the trip, I was very happy I didn't bring them, because this camera and lens combination, the 28 to 200, is a heavy combination. Like, and carrying this around all day, it gets old, and then you're worried about people stealing it and all that good stuff. So, long story short, when you're looking for your camera, sensor size doesn't matter as much as it used to. And so, when you're watching these reviews on YouTube and they're talking about the latest and greatest cameras, and this one has that feature and this has this feature, really think about how you're going to use the camera. And, is it worth, because again, full frame is usually more expensive than APS-C, micro four thirds, 1-inch sensors, even your phone sometimes. Is it really worth that extra expense, knowing you're also going to have to get lenses for that camera? The nice part with at least Sony, if you get the APS-C cameras, A6100, A6600, I know they have newer ones out, I just can't remember their names. You can use full frame camera lenses. You can use full frame lenses on those cameras. And some people think you actually get a better image quality because the sensor is smaller. You're not using all the glass. You're using just like the middle portion of the glass, and that's usually the best portion of a lens. So you might be getting a better image quality with using full frame lenses on a APS-C camera, but do what's best for you. Do what you feel. And again, we're having fun with this. Don't take it too serious. Enjoy. Whatever you get, go out and enjoy taking pictures. All right. So that's my rant. Not my rant. That's my advice for people looking at cameras and camera sensors and upgrading your cameras. Like, I feel like there's just a lot of noise out there these days about sensors, and it used to be about megapixels. Now it's about the sensors, and you're seeing all these people with like the 61 megapixel Leica lens cameras and all this stuff. And again, I told my kid this weekend, or this past week. He just started basketball, and he was like, I really want to get these shoes. These are like the best shoes I can get. They're like $150. And I asked him, I was like, will these shoes make you a better basketball player? Or will practicing outside in your free time, after school, after homework, after basketball, like, will that make you better, or will the shoes make you better? So it's just like, will a $2,500 camera and another $1,000 lens make you a better photographer, or just getting out there taking pictures, understanding your gear, understanding situations, putting yourself in different lighting situations, and then when you go on like the safari, now you know how to use your camera. Like, that's, for us, that's the equivalent of a NBA finals, right? Like, going on this big massive trip with your camera. You don't want to be fumbling around when like the elephant is standing in the perfect spot with the sun hitting him just right, and you're trying to figure out how to take your camera off of auto mode. So that's my advice to people. If you're looking for a new camera, look within your budget. And don't worry about the sensor size. Like, just find something that works for you. All right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, you all know I picked up the Samsung Tab S8 as like when I'm not in the house, I'm gonna go away and bring this computer, and it was great. Like, it is great, like, for what it does, having decks and all this stuff. It's really great. And Lightroom on iOS and Android, the latest update for at least Android is brought it back up to the iOS level, meaning it's on par. I was about to do a video when we came back from our vacation, 2-week vacation, about how not far back, but how the Android version of Lightroom isn't the same as the iOS version, but it's good. Like, it's really good now. However, the one thing that both of them have in common is you cannot stitch panoramic images together on the mobile version of Lightroom, which sucks because you can do that in other apps, right? And it would be great to be able to do that in Lightroom and then save it within Lightroom. And maybe they don't think there's enough power or anything like that, but again, there's other companies that do that. So I've been looking at getting a couple options. I was thinking about getting just a Mac Mini and then using the Mac Mini as like my main computer, and then my MacBook Air as like my outside the house computer, and then just running Lightroom on the MacBook Air and Lightroom Classic on the Mac Mini. And I like that idea, and I've been thinking about it, but then I was like, I really want to use Windows also. Listen, I like photography, but I also just like tech, and I like that's why I like having an iPhone and an Android phone. I like the iPad and a Samsung tablet, Mac and Windows. Like, I like having all of it just to see what's going on and to use them for different situations. And so I came across this Robo and Kala 2-in-1 laptop. It's very light. It's a 960 grams, 20-hour battery life. It's a 12.6 AMOLED touchscreen, backlit keyboard, comes with the keyboard. It's like the Microsoft Surface design, so it can snap apart and come back together. 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabyte SSD, and it's an ARM chip. So it should have better battery life than like an Intel processor, but it won't be as powerful as a Intel processor. But again, you don't need fans, so it's fanless and all this stuff. And from all the reviews I've seen, and on Amazon right now, it has a 45 ratings, 4.6 stars, which again, those can be not as reliable. But from all the YouTube videos from people who've bought the device and also received it, they all talk about how amazing this device is. Let me see if I can show you here, actually. So this is it right here. $7.99 with a $50 coupon, so it's going to be $7.49. It comes with the stylus, so it has a touch pen support, comes with the stylus, comes with the keyboard, which again, Microsoft does not do that on their Surface devices. And the great part is Adobe has optimized Lightroom and Photoshop to run on ARM on Windows. So I'm really tempted to pick up this device and use it as I'm out of the house, but I still want to get real work done and be able to use Lightroom Classic. No, Lightroom, not Lightroom Classic, but Lightroom, and be able to do stitching pictures together. Again, importing pictures, I can save them to an SSD and all that good stuff, but I can import pictures into Lightroom. It gets uploaded to the cloud, but if I want to keep a logo copy, you can if you're traveling. But again, like I said, you can stitch your pictures together. It'll have a full version of Lightroom on a tablet. And again, I wouldn't use, Windows is not a great tablet operating system. It's not like Android, iOS, It's like I would guess the Mac OS would be a not good tablet operating system. But for the situation that I would use it in, it would be perfectly fine, especially like you're on a plane and you have the active stylus. You could just start editing your pictures right there on the plane as you're heading home from your vacation with full Lightroom support. Again, it's not Lightroom Mobile, which is great, and I really like it. And they just updated it again, and it's again really good HDR support and all this good stuff. But having full blown full blown Lightroom is always better. And so I'm really thinking about picking this up and trying it for a month, and see how I like it. Again, it's for me, I'm not bound by like the manufacturer. Like I'm not loyal to any one manufacturer. It's about like the device and how it will help me achieve my goals. And for me, like what I thought with the iPad and with the Samsung device, I really like that being able to edit my pictures on a screen, being able to detach the keyboard and sit more comfortably, or put it in a stand with a Bluetooth keyboard. I love all that stuff, but I would like to have a full version of Lightroom. And Apple doesn't make a tablet that has full Mac OS on there, and it would probably be ridiculously expensive. $7.99 or $7.49 with a $50 coupon, and then I have another $50 gift card. So $600, $700, not a bad price. So I'm going to report back if I do pick this up and let you all know. And again, for me, this is a way to. I want photography to be accessible to everyone. I want to be able to help as many people I can, and so being able to know Windows, being able to know macOS, is really great. Speaking of macOS, Apple is coming out with a new. Apple's having an event next Monday, October 30th. It's probably going to be new computers, and so as photographers, should we even care about this? Because I will say the 2020 MacBook Air that I have, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 2 terabytes of storage, no fan, nothing like that, has been the best computer I've ever used. And this is their entry level computer. This is not like the MacBook Pro or anything like that. This is MacBook Air. And so it's probably going to be like an updated M2 products or something like that. But I mean, I haven't been following the speculations, but should we care if you are a photographer about these new computers? Well, yes and no. If you have an older Intel computer and you're thinking about getting one of these new M1 or M-based chips, then yeah, I think you should wait and look to see what they're going to have, right? However, you can pick up a, let me see, I'll show you here. You can pick up a 2020 MacBook Air, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage for $850. And if you want it used in good condition, you can pay $769. Like, that's ridiculous. Now, granted, 8 gigabytes of RAM is good. If you could find a 16 gigabyte RAM option, and maybe bump the storage up to 512, and if you can still keep it under $1,000, like used, I mean, that's amazing. These M1 MacBook Airs, I think, are going to age easily for the next age well. Sorry, they're going to age well easily for the next 5, 6, 7 years. So you don't have to go out and get the latest and greatest. And with their new event coming up, this one already has USB-C charging. So you're going to get fast charging. You're going to get fast speeds of like importing pictures. The biggest difference between the MacBook Air and like a MacBook Pro is the fan, obviously, RAM, but you also get like the SD card slot. So if you don't like carrying around dongles, which I don't, that is one nice version. But personally, for me, again, this MacBook Air has been amazing, and I haven't even thought about buying like a new laptop. Like I said before, the only two computers I've been thinking about getting is like a Mac Mini that I could leave here at the house, or the that Robancala 2-in-1 Windows device, because it's a full blown computer. I can run Lightroom on it, and it has touch inputs. I can edit pictures that way, which is something, again, as a Mac user, I cannot do that on my Mac, any Mac product. And so, unless they're coming out with like a 2-in-1 Mac product, which I doubt they would do right now with this announcement, I don't think it's worth. I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to be. I don't think there's anything that's too, like, oh my gosh, you got to get it, right? But I would pay attention, because it might. I'm sure it's going to be interesting. I'm sure they're going to have some crazy speeds. I'm sure they're going to show off some really nice products. If you like a big screen and you like an all-in-one desktop, I think, I hope they update their iMac, and so that you can get, the M2 or M2 Pro in an iMac version. That would be pretty cool. But I'm loving the laptop living. I really, really, really am tempted about that Windows 2-in-1 laptop with pen support, because again, using this to edit my pictures is way better than using this, the Mac Magic Trackpad. All right, and then a couple other things. Tamron has a firmware update for the beloved 28 to 200. It says it's going to like help with autofocus and make it faster and some more stuff. I didn't realize this came out in 2020, and I picked it up like a month after it came out. Absolutely love this lens. If you have a Sony camera, the 28-200 is the best travel lens I've ever used, and it's still to this day. If I'm going to bring the A7 II, that lens is coming with me. Like, if we're traveling, that lens is coming with me. The 90mm will literally stay at the house because it's great for certain situations, but the 28-200 I absolutely love. Apparently they have it's had a couple firmware updates. I haven't done any of them, but it's pretty simple to do. I tried doing it earlier. I just kept running into an error because I need to go back and apply the previous updates before I can update it, but it's pretty simple to do. I will leave a link to where you can do that. And then also, I was reading a story on Petapixel, which I'll leave a link to. The picture that won the world's largest photo competition was staged. So this was a picture, and it was taken and saying like it was a traditional Indonesian cafe, but really it was shot in the studio. It was in Indonesia, but there were many other photographers there who did it, and the photographer who won, I don't know, like, it's I don't know if they lied. Oh yeah, they lied. Okay, yeah, they lied. I mean, if they said this was taking a traditional Indonesian cafe, and it wasn't, then yeah, they lied. But I don't know what's gonna happen to him. Like, no one really knows. A lot of people thought it was an AI image, but it's not. Like, it was taken, and there's a bunch of people who were there, other photographers who took similar images just like it. Like, they were all literally. There's a picture. I will leave a link in the down below where there's like a bunch of photographers taking the same picture. So very interesting. Yeah, listen, if you're gonna enter a photo competition, just be honest and just say how you got it. Yeah. Other than that, okay. This is live. All right, y'all. So this has been the end of another great half an hour with you all. I wish you all had questions every week, Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. there's going to be a live show where we talk photography. I would love to get your questions. I would love to get your input. I would love for this to be more than just a one-way conversation. But having said that, this has been awesome. I hope you all catch it on the replay. I will leave links. I know I said this every week, but I will leave links to everything I talked about in today's show down below. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below also, and I will get back to you. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.